President. Sorry that today is long day for you.
We're up to date with whatever is going on. Might think of any material you want to watch again, or aside of this unit. And one more thing, media monitoring, which is actually thing also again might be negative. Mostly we're focusing on the negative things, and any complaints might be coming from the UAE citizens or to work on the developing projects. Is focusing on the negative, comments or posts. Those circular sources, they change based on the situation.
In terms of anything to do with economics, social aspects, history as well. This is all in this particular collection. In terms of that, you can see the detail on it, even in the 50 accurate, the way that it was drawn. It's very impressive, to be honest. Different, showing different parts of the Middle East, of course, accurate than the one you saw in the beginning.
French map, yeah. This is also cartography. Oh, great paintings of horses.
It's the most up-to-date books that we keep on this shelf here. So these are all books that we have published ourselves in the center. Military, national security, international relations, politics.
This is the top for you, Mr. President. It's a new one. Because it reflects
the future today.
Future today.
This is the book, it's in English. It's about, it's the poem, of our main poem, which was written in the 12th century.
Wow!
It is the main book for us, of course, Bible and this book. The teller was telling the story. The poem starts that once upon a time there was a king in Arabia. Because it was about Giorgi.
Thank you.
I hope you will look through this because it's a very important book for us.
And a crossroad for international transit routes. Both Georgia and the UAE are unique. Georgian President Giorgi Margvelashvili mechanisms, creating a shared future in our inconsistent Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's my honor to be here and to engage in this very interesting discussion with the privileged audience and to strategize about the future that would bring prosperity to my people, to this country, and bring future solutions to many nations that are willing to be engaged into this peaceful and future-targeted cooperation. Let me start with my first impression being here in the Emirates. It is overwhelming. My first descending here and the impression that you get from the great commitment of your people and the great work that has been done here and the tempo of developments here are really impressive. They impress you and they give you hope and they give you feeling of how much can be done when you have a targeted view and when you have a view that is concentrated to the better and the future of the society. Also, it is very, and I was also overwhelmed with the openness and friendship and the way that our plans and projects and visions were embraced during those meetings where we had during this day. So I am very excited with what I have seen and also excited with the plans that we have been discussing. What are the opportunities? As it was already mentioned, Georgia plays a very significant role in a very important region, a region that is connecting global economies of Asia and economies of Europe, and more locally economies of the Caspian Sea and the resources that are around Caspian Sea in the Central Asia, with the Black Sea, and as it was mentioned, giving the coast and giving trade opportunities to numerous nations on the both sides, east and west. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, our leaders and very much our late President Eduard Shevardnadze, which was a very strategic thinker, has very actively engaged in cooperation between Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey, and created the link which was uniting the energy resources of the Caspian Basin with the opportunities of export into, from the Black Sea and from Turkey. This was done some 25 years ago. For these 25 years, we have committed very strongly to this vision and to the vision of creating opportunities to the countries east of Georgia as well as west of Georgia. We have invested in development of the transportation system, in development of communications, in development of the infrastructure for this cooperation. And now we can say that Georgia has become one of the most interesting and prospective parts of the global Euro-Asian project, which is happening with active engagement of China, and which is the project of One Belt of One Road, including not only far eastern trade routes, but also routes that, let's say, start from Afghanistan and go through Turkmenistan, through Caspian, and engage and finalize in Georgia, and many other opportunities that we are very open and very dedicated to engage. Not only we very actively develop the infrastructure for these cooperations, but we have also properly targeted our policy towards this kind of global projects, a policy which is always oriented on harmonizing the tariffs, harmonizing legislations, creating opportunities for different business sectors, as well as creating a great business environment within the country. With all this, of course, we have a clear vision of where and what we want to be in the future. I was just discussing with our great hosts and friends our history. We are a nation that is starting its statehood in the 3rd century BC. So we have been on this place for the last 23 centuries and have gone through very complicated times, and our main goal is to create more friends and more allies, more countries interested in stability and security of this small nation, and the countries that understand the strategic importance of the location of my homeland. So while developing those projects and while engaging and embracing our partners from East and from West, we increase the number of the states that are crucially interested in stability of the region, are interested in stability of my country. In 2019, it will be the top project that is starting from Baku and that will be finalizing in Italy and in Greece, basically securing the south of Europe with energy solutions. It means that we'll have more supporters and more friends, and we are also very actively trying to engage more countries into these trade opportunities. Coming here and discussing with and strategizing with friends, we we see great things that we can share with each other. For instance, the experience that could be shared concerning the way of managing logistics, of the way of concentrating, creating a hub for concentration of these big trade opportunities that are in the region. Also opening investment opportunities to our friends which are already active in Georgia and can bring Georgian experience back home. One of other interesting parts of our trade policy and economic policy is that we are very open for free trade opportunities. Georgia is a small market of 3.5 million people, but investing in Georgia means investing in a market that has free trade with Europe, that has free trade with Turkey, that has free trade with the ex-Soviet Union countries, that has free trade with China. So it means that we are giving a gateway and opportunity and opening to major global economies. But we are not only talking about the future plans and partnerships and the opportunities that we share with each other. We are also talking about the challenges. And these challenges are very important for Georgia because as a nation with small population, we are located in a very strategic region, located on the crossroads. We are looking for further security. We are looking for the mechanisms to secure our stability. The challenges for Georgia are basically the new solutions that are based not on the principles of the rule of law, but the new solutions that are based on the new power games that are happening in the region. I am, of course, representing a country that is 20% occupied. It is occupied by a neighbor country, a nuclear superpower, and occupied with violation of every mandate of international law and with violation of any kind of even historic logic. It's even worse. It's with the violation of economic logic because occupation of Georgia did not bring anything to Russia. Russia has the biggest territory. They don't need to occupy other countries. But this is a precedent that is very much problematic for Georgia, for its stability. Because if we don't come to general respect of rule of law, if we don't come to respect of the treaties that we sign with each other, if we don't come to the respect of the international organizations and international forums which are going to be securing stability for countries that, let's say, don't have nuclear power, that countries that don't have big enough armies to fight superpowers, then we are facing instability in the years to come. And this instability is far beyond expected range of possibilities that can happen. So what we are doing as a nation and as a state, we are very actively outreaching to our friends all around the world, and world is much more smaller, and globalization made it much more smaller, much more active communications that people can have with each other. So we are outreaching to our friends all around the world, engaging them in support of the rule of law, engaging them in support of the goodwill policies, in condemning treating smaller nations or nations who cannot smaller nations or smaller neighbors with a harsh military power. And we are, I would say, our diplomacy is very successful in that respect. We have reached quite a level of support among globally the international community. And we are strengthening our path in this respect. We are trying to become more convincing. And while convincing our friends and allies, we say that if we don't come to joint solutions, these problems that could be happening in Georgia or could be happening in Caucasus can then echo in other parts of this global world. So when I'm coming to the great nations and great states like I am today, I'm always looking for this opportunity to share common values, to share common hopes, to share common principles of the relationships between the states, as well as to build future plans. And my being here is very pleasant and very perspective-oriented, because we look at the future with the same position. We look at the future from position of building peace, building stability, showing society what are the future plans and perspective, and creating projects that will benefit all of us and that will bring solution to all of the nations engaged in this discussion. So basically, this is something that I wanted to share. I think that I would leave more opportunities for questions and answers, and be happy to discuss together with you and to strategize about our future opportunities.
My name is Marko Selakovic, coming originally from Serbia, from the Balkans. Former chairman of Balkan Caucasus NGO network, so I remember engagement of Dr. Margvelashvili from the NGO sector prior to this formal politics. My question for the global world, as per your opinion and as per your experience, can the lessons learned in previous strategic partnerships, strategic alliances between the emerging countries, which are emerging in different ways, like Georgia and UAE do, like Serbia and UAE do, is it the model for connecting and for disruption of the pattern of negative behavior, negative attitude, which happens in this inconsistent world? Is this key for long-term sustainability of small countries or not? Thank you.
Which is the model?
Strategic alliances between smaller emerging countries which have emerging pathway in a different way, like UAE, for example, and Georgia.
Well, I believe that this is a solution, it's not only model, but it's also a solution for future peaceful development of the global world. We are countries that look for stability, and we are looking for this stability and security for the purpose of bringing solutions and for bringing better future to our citizens. What is an alternative to this? And when we are looking at the alternative, the only alternative is destabilization, going back to Cold War, and Cold War maybe was called between NATO and the Warsaw Pact, but it was not called in some other places, because it was very often there were places, the proxy wars, where people were dying and they were killed. What is the alternative to these solutions? It is either Cold War or regional superpowers, which cause problems and cause terrible perspective once again for the citizens, and bring no whatsoever solution. So, a small country, we very much count on the rule of law, but also we count that the rule of law will be protected very principally by the major players. As a small country, we are looking at the opportunity, and we are very actively investing in global security. We are one of the biggest contributors to the peacekeeping forces in Afghanistan. My small nation of 3 or 4 million is contributing much more troops to Afghan operation than other nations do. And we do this for years. At the same time, we are one of the most active aspirants of the NATO. We are one of the most active countries in EU. So bilateral relations are always important, but we need more security umbrellas, at least Georgia in this specific region. We need more active forms of securing global stability when small countries are not left one-to-one with a very aggressive neighbor. It is, in case of Georgia, this is Georgia vis-a-vis Russia. This is Ukraine vis-a-vis Russia. This is Moldova vis-a-vis Russia. And we are seeking out we are jointly seeking out and trying to find more supporters to protect and to forward our truth that a strong country could not be destabilizing and occupying its neighbors. I hope that by creating numerous precedents of this cooperation, we will be able to prevail the attitude of the Cold War and sentiment of the Cold War that unfortunately we are hearing so actively from Moscow. Because if this logic continues, it will not be only a problem with Georgia and Ukraine. If the logic of the new Cold War starts to be active, it will be a problem globally. Because Cold Wars are the wars of the proxy wars, and the proxy wars are something that is going to bring terrible future to millions of people that are living, whose lifestyle and everyday life will be destroyed like it has happened in many times and places.